North suburban couple was robbed at gunpoint just steps from their own front door.
Of being in America and relying on emergency services and thinking that, well, this could never happen here. We live in a nice, rich neighborhood. A couple of days ago, a couple was robbed in the suburb of Chicago called Glenview. It's a pretty nice neighborhood. And here I want to go over a couple of lessons to be learned from it, but not just tactically, really the long-term effects of letting something like this happen. So let's check it out.
Lie down, execution style, put your head down. And I thought, wow.
Our Nate Rogers has the video and spoke with the couple tonight. Nate.
Absolutely, Scott and Dawn. This couple says they're grateful to be alive, but they're still trying to process this very frightening and surreal experience. They said happened in under less than a minute, and they were almost inside of their homes when the unthinkable happened. A husband and wife with guns aimed at their heads, forced to surrender valuables.
It took us a second to process what the heck was happening to us.
Gregory Poulos and his wife Angie had just returned from dinner in downtown Chicago. They believe they were followed while driving their Astro Martin SUV. Once home near the front door, police say they were robbed at gunpoint by three men with their faces covered. But here's what the couple says we don't see on video.
After the camera stops, he had us lie down on our stomachs, head down, guns pointed at us from all three of them. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this how this is going to end? Mm-hmm. And then there was a pause. He goes, don't look up. And they dashed off and left.
It happened outside the family's Glenview home along Bluestem Lane around 10 p.m. Monday. The town, located roughly 20 miles northwest of downtown Chicago, has a fairly low crime rate. Poulos relying on de-escalation tactics learned in the Navy.
They have the gun. They're in charge. But try to at least give them what they want.
In less than 40 seconds, the couple robbed of a purse, wallet, cell phones, clothing, and approximately $60,000 worth of jewelry. The good news, they were not injured.
My dad had always said that growing up. Had always said nothing is important. Your lives and your health is what's important. The tangible items can be replaced.
Okay, now let me say a couple of things about this really quickly. Yeah, absolutely, life is always going to be more important than valuables, but what I really want to focus on here is the long-term psychological and emotional effects of just bowing over to some sort of punk-ass criminals and literally letting them have their way with you, because there are a lot of things at play here besides $60,000 worth of jewelry. Now, before we get into that, let's digress back to the start of this whole thing. They're driving around in an Aston Martin, completely ignorant of the fact that they're being followed. There are ways to know if you are being followed. It's something called a J-hook maneuver or a sidestep. Reach out if you have not seen those videos. I'd be more than happy to break those down into further detail, or maybe I need to repost them because it's been quite a while. But my point is be aware enough of your environment when you do 5s and 25s so that you at least can identify the people who are within your absolute near vicinity. If you're driving in a highly expensive vehicle with a bunch of highly expensive jewelry, living in a highly expensive neighborhood, obviously people are going to always be targeting you. And as this right here just goes to prove, is that when you're incapable of defending yourself, you just open the door for criminals to just come in and run a train on you. And on top of that, guess what this does for the criminals? It empowers them to continue to do this to other people. So you're actually exacerbating and propagating the violent crime trends and streak of these individuals, because now they feel like they can always get away with it. But first, let's talk back more about the tactical piece. Let's pull this video back up and kind of break some things down. So this video starts off with the couple walking up to their front door. Now, be advised, you are most likely to get robbed when you live in the suburbs, in your driveway and at your front door, plain and simple. Why? Because you're already home, you're focused on your keys, you think that everything's safe, you probably got to pee if you're anything like me. I don't know why that always happens when I reach the front door, but you are most susceptible to robbery, the taking of one's items by the threat of the use of force or the force of violence at your front door and in the driveway. Be aware. This vehicle came pulling up, and the woman in another interview did say that she thought it was her son's friends that were pulling up to the house, but the fact that you're unaware of who's pulling up, it just blows my mind. If somebody's pulling up in front of my house, I'm going to stop and look and observe to see exactly who it is. I get it, it's dark out, but I'm going to know the majority of vehicles that my kids' friends are going to be driving. None of my kids' friends drive yet, but when they do, you had damn sure better believe that I will. Just like I know the majority of my wife's friends' cars. It's not rocket science to know what types of vehicles people are driving whenever they're pulling up to your home. The next thing here. She said it took a moment to realize what's happening. This is called the reflex arc, and this is something that people never take into consideration, where it's the amount of time it takes your brain to perceive what your senses are pulling in from the environment around you. It's going to take a half a second, a full second. If you've never done training before on this type of a situation, robbery, self-defense, concealed carry, your brain has no repository to pull and extrapolate information from, and so therefore it's sitting trying to compute, what is this thing? Why is this person running up to us? What is going on right here? Because it has no frame of reference. Somebody comes running out of a vehicle holding their arms up in the air. Even if I can't see what's in their hands, I'm already going to be taking that as a very serious threat, and I'm going to be taking steps in order to protect myself and my family. But then now we really start to get into what I think is the nexus of the problem with this whole situation. Look what this guy does. He takes a step backwards and puts his hands up, the universal sign for I'm not a threat. And his wife takes a step forward. She throws something at him, but what in the absolute hell is going on here? Where the guy is moving away from the threat and further away from the threat, and the wife is the one basically taking charge, standing in front of him and the gunman, throwing valuables, throwing items. And what does he do? He immediately follows suit and starts to concede and starts to take his clothes off even, just to appease these guys. Now, de-escalation tactics that you learned in the Navy? Bullshit, bro. What? Oh, take all my stuff and please don't hurt me while my wife stands in between me and the criminal? That is not de-escalation tactics, okay? That is just simply your sympathetic nervous system taking over, and you are in a fear-based mode. You are petrified, you are going into shock, and you are just conceding with anything that they are telling you to do in an absolute hope that they do not decide to harm you or your wife. But in this case, I would say he was more concerned with himself. So they take off their clothes.
You can have it. Honest to God, guys.
Now, I don't know if you can see the third guy in the background here. We got 1, 2, 3, and then the getaway driver. Yeah, absolutely. There's only so much you're going to be able to do it after a certain point. You have momentum within these engagements, and they happen very quickly, which is why the whole situational awareness aspect is so important, 5s and 25s. And if you don't know how to easily integrate that in situational awareness into your life, then go watch my video on 5s and 25s. It's how you begin to build safety habits, safety consciousness, without living a paranoid life. So the fact that these guys run out, because now you got 1, but now you got 2 and 3 running up on them. Well, there's 2, there's 3. They had more than enough time, if you ask me. Somebody comes barreling out, I would have drawn my firearm right here and started shooting this guy. 100%. Because I would have been able to identify this dude as a threat. You can't see it on the camera here, obviously, but the amount of distance between them is not that great. And based off of the totality of circumstances, what I call potentially harmful behaviors, yeah, this guy's hopping out the car, pointing something at me. Guess what? I'm going to start shooting. That's for damn sure. What I'm not going to do is throw my hands up in the air, step back, and let my wife get in between the gunman and me, and then allow his other 2 buddies to come exit the vehicle. Because think of it this way. If I would have started shooting this guy right here, and then I would have started shooting the vehicle, because I'm going to assume more threats are coming from that car, now this guy's going to be neutralized, and the other 2 are going to be pinned down, while my wife and I can get behind these brick barriers, and she's calling 911, and I could lay down some sort of suppressive fire, or potentially something more accurate if they're trying to come in and close the distance on us. It's not that hard to learn how to keep yourself and your loved ones safe, guys. It is not that difficult. But when we live in this handicapped mindset of being in America and relying on emergency services and thinking that, well, this could never happen here. We live in a nice, rich neighborhood. That is exactly how you end up getting your ass robbed. Now, let's talk about the long-term effects of this right here. Do you think this guy's wife is going to respect him? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Think about your wife, your family, your relationship. And if you did exactly what this guy is doing right here in this situation, would you feel like the protector? Do you really feel like the provider of your home? Like you're the one responsible for the safety and security of the people who are entrusted to you as the man or even as the woman of the house? I'm going to say no. I will be damned if my wife is ever thrusted into a situation like this and I respond like that. I would kill myself. I would seriously, I'm not saying that this guy should. I'm saying for me, I would never be able to live with myself because I failed. And given my background, that's a huge deal. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to have my type of background or do the exact same thing that I would do. But what I am saying is that when you are put in charge of your family's safety and security, then you should take it seriously. You should at least know how to use a weapon. You should at least have a minuscule amount of situational awareness and understand that there are certain threats that are constantly swimming around you, especially when you're swimming with blood in the water as a very wealthy person wearing very wealthy items. I always encourage people to live life to the fullest of their extent. If you earned those items, then cool, wear them, be flashy. I don't really give a damn. But when you walk around completely ignorant of the fact that you're being targeted or that you're at least susceptible to being targeted, and then something like this happens to you, guess whose fault it is, bro? Yours. I am very interested in cases like this to find out how these people vote. Why? Because there seems to be this overwhelming demographic that wants to let criminals loose back out onto the street. And given Illinois' cashless bail bond system, the SAFE-T Act, that's exactly what would happen to these guys, even if they did get busted, which they probably never will. So now they're out 60 grand. Now the wife will never look at this dude as he's the protector. This guy certainly doesn't probably think he's the protector or feel like he is. And so now he's going to live the rest of his life emasculated over a 30-second incident that could have easily been avoided with just a little bit of training and self-improvement. If that's something that you guys are interested in and never being a victim like this, then I highly encourage you to go to joemalonetraining.com, where we have a litany of classes that we provide all year long so that people can learn about situational awareness. And it's all simple stuff that allows you to build safety conscious habits that I use as myself, as a husband, as a father, as a former special operations Marine. It's everything that I do in my life is all about building good, proper habits so that they can compound in an easy and seamless way into your life. And when you talk to the hundreds of people that train with me on a regular basis, they will tell you the same thing, that it is very effective. I'm very glad nobody got hurt. I just wish that it would have had a better outcome where perhaps the man would have actually walked away feeling like a man and not like he had just been bent over and had a train run on him by 3 little teenage boys with little pistols.